And a very good morning to you all once again. Well, that's a fairly rare Ellington piece. It was Cotton Club Stomp, recorded June the 6th, 1939 to be precise. It was a band at that time. The Duke still had Cootie Williams and Rex Stewart. Tricky Sam was there, Lawrence Brown, Juan Teasdale, Barnaby Garr, Johnny Hodges, Hardwick, Harry Carney, of course, Fred Guy, Hayes Alvis and Billy Taylor were the bass players, and Sonny Greer was on drums. You probably recognised it as Cotton Club Stomp. I shall be more than delighted to welcome Stephen Grappelli to Sydney next week. Well, not only because I have an affection for all the fine recordings he made with Django Reinhardt, and nostalgia must play some part in the tour, of course, but because he simply is a first-class exponent of jazz on the violin, to say nothing of his excellent support, which will include Ike Isaacs, Diz Disley, and Ronnie Scott. Possibly, the sound will be something like this. And that was Stefan Grappelli with Mark Hemmler, or Mark Omelette, I'm not quite sure about that one. He was on acoustic piano. Lenny Bush, the English bass player. Chris Caron from Australia on drums. And somebody called Ernie Cranenburgh, either English or Scottish, I would say, wouldn't you? Cranenburgh. He was on guitar. It actually was a look back to the 30s and a piece called Minor Swing. I looked up the original label, which comes from the 1930s, and that says Minors, M-I-N-O-R, apostrophe S, swing, you know, possessive case. No matter. One of the highlights of the recent Two Generations of Brubeck tour was Darius and Company's version of the old swing warhorse, Christopher Columbus. On the concerts I heard, they played this towards the end, and they really did generate a full head of steam, a good deal of which was needed by Mad Cat, you know, that virtuoso mouth and jaws harp player, who seemed ready for anything, from the straightforward meter of Christopher Columbus to the very complicated piece in 11/8, which Darius Brubeck concocted to keep everybody counting furiously. So, Christopher Columbus, and it'll be on their new LP. think it's a pity more people don't take up the old swing war horses and redo them, as it were. That was Christopher Columbus. I think we first heard it from Fletcher Henderson in about 36, maybe before then. And Benny Goodman did it, of course. Several other people have. That was the Two Generations of Brubeck. It'll be out on their new LP, which is not yet released in the States. Now, for a rather unusual sound from Count Basie. The Count plays a...
And I will do a Fatomatic there. I could just keep listening. To be honest, I'm out of a job. It's so compelling. His encyclopedic demeanour. He just knows all of the music, everyone in every band, and I find it utterly compelling, to be honest.
Is the Australian Willis Conover?
Yes, indeed. In fact, I think he was English-born, and yes, Eric Child, and his story is extraordinary. I mean, he was in the Navy during the war, and his ship was sunk, and he floated in the ocean on a barrel for ages and was rescued. It's one of those remarkable tales. Incredible. So anyhow, it's fabulous to hear these recordings, and we'll sort of top and tail the program with them periodically.
It used to be on Saturday mornings in the 50s.
Yeah.
I don't think that's this program.
Well, yes, I don't know. It is a morning program because it started off good. They said good morning at the start.
Oh, well, it maybe they changed the name, but
well, they may well have.
I think it was just called something like Jazz on Saturday or something.
Yeah, right. Fair enough.
This was in the early 50s.
Okay.
As I think I said, it's the first time I ever heard Ella.
Yes, amazing. That is truly remarkable, Frank. Yeah, the first episode of these Eric Child programs, I think it's 1958 that I've got here. But,
that's still pretty old.
Yeah, it's going back a lot from the 60s, but I have sampled a few from the 60s, and Mr. Lord, who owned them, I think he was saving tape, and sadly he chops out the voice in the earlier ones. But the recordings from the 70s, I think tape was a bit more ubiquitous.
Yeah,
and
still.
Yeah, we get the full program.
They're all worth hearing, aren't they?
Oh, they're good.
They're terrific.
Yeah, absolutely. And
you know, the commentary itself is gold, isn't it?
Oh, look, is it ever? It's fabulous. It's a sign of the times. It's that wonderful sort of a little bit of the voice of authority, but you can see that there's a deep fascination with it. You know, he's not removed. He's emotionally invested. And
it does remind me of Willis in the amount of detail and depth of knowledge that he has.
That's right. Yes, exactly. Willis, of course, had the golden tone and had the most beautiful delivery. And Eric Child's fabulous in his own way. And I'm just intrigued. There's dozens and dozens of these. And
he was going to hear the next week he was going to meet Stefan Grappelli.
Yeah, he said that. Isn't that incredible?
It's incredible.
It's fabulous. I think he was sort of up there, you know. In fact, he was a jazz musician himself. He played the drums, apparently.
You said.
Yeah, so, you know, there's a background. But look, I'm really pleased to say that we've got a way of, a means and a system now of digesting these tapes. And I caught up, would you believe, with Mr. Stew this morning. And I went along to the EMDRC car boot sale. And
he was there, was he?
Yeah,
obviously he was there.
Yeah, it was great to catch up with him. And Mr. Newbeck and others, a lot of Peter Parker was there, had a good chat with Peter Parker. And he's found this amazing tiny radio. It's the size of your thumb. And it's I'm going to get one for bushwalking because it weighs grams.
What are they called? You know?
I'm not sure yet. I just saw it, and
if you find out, let me know.
Yeah, he's made a video or two about them, and
Is it on his website?
Apparently, and
I'll go and have a look tonight.
Yes, do that, and I'll do the same. And I reckon it's on a short order for me from China because I want one of these for the backpack. They're tiny little radios, and they've got a little menu system and a tiny little screen with all of the. You can change your bandwidth. You can change all these parameter settings.
Good heavens.
And they are really good. And the sound, it's there, you know, for a walk, if you want a little bit of, radio company on a bushwalk out back and you don't want to carry the weight. I might see if I can get one to take with me on the Lower Pinta Trail for July. But anyhow, it was good to catch up with Mr. Stew and Mr. Nige, and he's good. Yes, everyone's well, and the program is rollicking along. And it's prompted me to do some listens. I usually do listen once or twice a week, but the last couple of weeks have been super biz. And
I tune in when I think of it, and he's always bass signal.
Yeah, oh, totally, absolutely.
On 4 megs.
Yeah, and he's been doing improvements. Yeah, in fact, be good if he could pop in. He's actually in town at the moment, because yes, he's he's been doing improvements and refining the operational side of things, and he has new antenna or new sort of aggregate transmitter arrays and stuff like that. And he'd be best to describe it because he's doing it in his own inimitable way, and but it's working really well and bass strength. I know it just booms in here. It's amazing. So
There are a lot of people there, in other words.
Yeah. So
Did you buy anything?
No, I'm really proud of myself, Frank.
I'm very proud of you too.
I think it was a good move. I think I've turned the corner. I reckon a year ago, I probably would have got quite a few things. And this year, I thought, nope, I don't need that. I'm now sort of, I just don't need things. And
the need test is radically different to the want test, isn't it?
Yes. Well, look, that's right. You're spot on with that. There's a whole psychology here. But I do have lots of projects sort of in motion, and I really should address those and allow them to fully express their sort of purpose and all of that. And then, But I've got to work on the getting rid of things. I saw Anthony, actually. I saw Anthony was there today.
Okay.
Yeah, caught up with him.
Was he buying or selling?
He was buying.
Was he good?
Yes, he didn't have a table. But I spoke to Mr. Drew, caught up with him.
Excellent, yes.
Yeah, it was a good chat. It was good. It was Nige. I had a good talk with him. We always have
Yes, always great value is Nige.
Oh, totally. And we were reflecting on the old timers talk.
He was really good.
Yeah, he was talking all about that. And
I don't know whether anyone made a recording of it.
Yes, apparently it's up on the tube.
If you get the chance, you must listen.
Yes, indeed. I believe it's being uploaded somewhere. So
yeah,
I
think it was recorded.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm going to hear it again.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to hear it. And he's already thinking of the next one.
Oh, wonderful.
So he's got I think he's on a roll with his public delivery pursuits. So yeah, Mr. Nige was good to see him. It was a social, totally and utterly a social thing. I didn't have very long.
See, there is a need for such things.
Oh, there is. It's absolutely there is. It's so important, and we just, we've got to have those sort of, catch-up sessions. And I hadn't seen Mr. Newbeck for ages, and he's really busy now. He's just sort of like got all this extra responsibility, and he's, oh my goodness me, it's a hard phase of life when you're trying to do mortgages and all of those other things.
I have vague memories.
Oh goodness me, and it's full on. So he's really in the middle of all of that. But look, he'll emancipate.
Is he doing any radio?
Not much, I don't think. He's still collecting stuff, but I don't think he's doing much radio. But yeah, it's okay. I spoke to Leighton for ages.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, he had some things for sale, I think.
Yes, he did. He had a table there and had some very interesting items, but I had my cable tied hands behind my back. But we had a good talk, and we talked about the jazz sessions, the U3A sessions, and I was able to acknowledge his contribution to this program by virtue of sharing those links and so on. So yeah, that's really good. So yeah, he's always welcome to come up. Of course, he knows our input frequency. Yeah. So yeah, it was good to see Lad. Hadn't seen him for ages, and nice to be there. Mr. J.
Great. Did you stay for long?
I stayed for, look, I got there before the fact. I didn't have the car for very long. It's one of those things here that we share two cars.
Yes, I know how it is.
It's a tricky one. It's very difficult to get a vehicle for anything, really. But I was able to, negotiate that. And I was there for about 2 hours. Yeah, and I got there about 9:30. So that was
you
good.
Obviously made very good use of the time.
Oh yeah, I was just chatting the whole time. I looked around the tables a couple of times and thought, yes, no, yeah, no. And then the no's prevailed, and then I felt like I'd done something good. Yeah, so there we go. But anyhow, Mr. Stew's going to take a lot of these tapes and dub them because these Eric Child programs are really good missions fodder for his missions.
They'd be first class.
Yeah, and they're such good, they're excellent off-air recordings. They're done with wideband AM, and they're really good. And so
that's just what he wants. Really.
Yeah, totally. So, and there's dozens and dozens of them. So I've sorted through the tapes, and I put out about 50 for him to pick up, and then then I've got quite a few here as well, and then we'll just swap over and get through them all in time. So he'll do a first serious dub, and then we'll have them all preserved, which is a really good outcome.
Very.
Yeah, so there we go. That's the story. That's the latest. So anyhow, I suppose we better move on. Play some music. What can we play? I haven't really thought beyond the moment, to be honest.
That last number was really interesting, the two Brubecks.
Yeah, I know. I hadn't heard that before. Christopher Columbus.
Yeah.
I always associate that song with Fats Waller.
Me too.
Yeah, and he didn't mention that. I thought that's interesting. I wonder if he was aware of the Fats. I mean, he would be in seventh heaven in the internet age. Just imagine someone like that with an encyclopedic mind.
Yeah.
He would have had to self-educate all through Rust's discographies and using, he would have just had to search for everything and just. In a very convoluted way.
Totally.
Yeah, it's just amazing. But I know I've got Christopher Columbus here, but I can't ever find records. They just pop up when they want to. Christopher Columbus, Fats Waller. I will play that version because we can follow on. It's such a great record. Let's find a good version of it. The thing is to find a version that's not compressed and over-processed. And
just while you're looking, I'll say this is vk3sl in contact with vk3sl, 2 meters to 160 meters, duplex, crossband duplex.
That's the name of the game.
Testing.
Yes, test missions on 160 and on UHF, and also streaming online. So be aware that we have a YouTube presence. So just look me up. Call sign vk3sl, and there is a dedicated space for these missions and for archives of these missions.
We say a special hello to the listener, and a very special hello to Jamie if you happen to be listening.
Yes, absolutely we do. And I look forward to catching up with Jamie. I've got school holidays coming up, so I will give him a call. We'll work out something.
He'd appreciate it.
That's the time for me to sort of touch base with people. Okay, I think I have a version of the famed Fats Waller version of Christopher Columbus. Fabulous song. I'm hoping this is not too over-processed.
Mr. Christopher Columbus sailed the sea without a compass. When his men began a rumpus, up spoke Christopher Columbus, yes. There's land somewhere until we get there. We will not go wrong if we swing a song. Since the world is round, oh, we'll be safe and sound, oh. Till our goal is found, oh, we'll just keep rhythm bound, oh. Since the crew was making merry, Mary got up and went home. Then came a yell for Isabel, and they brought on the rum and Isabel. No more mutiny, no. What a time at sea. With diplomacy, Christie made history, yes. Mr. Christopher Columbus, he used rhythm as a compass, yes, yes. Music ended all the rumpus, yes. Wise old Christopher Columbus. Latch on, Christie, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Santa Maria, and he's going back. Yeah. Look at that. In the year 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. What I say?
The inimitable Fats Waller in full flight. That's one of his best. I really think it is. Yes, he's just so full of viv or something. What is it? It's a zest for life.
Infectious, isn't it?
It is totally infectious. I'm drawn into his world, and I reckon it's a one-take recording. I can't imagine another take.
No, that's right.
It's just right in every sense.
You wouldn't want to do another one.
No, you wouldn't. You just walk out and just sort of,
That's done.
It's done. Next thing. Yes. Next woman. For him. Yeah. Yes, that's right. Yes, he was a force of nature, was Fats Waller. There we go. Christopher Columbus. Yeah. Well, I did pick a 20s disc out of the 20s shelf, and happens to be a record of interest, but it's got a bite out of it, so we'll just have to cope with that. But I'm set up ready to go with this. It's a recording of Bing with the Whiteman Band early days. It's before they moved to Columbia, so this record dates from the late 1927, early 28. They moved to Columbia in May 28. And it's from Showboat, and he made two tracks, Make Believe and also the other song, I can't remember. Anyhow, Make Believe is this side. So we'll hear this with the bite, but I have a feeling this has got a string bass solo behind the vocalist with Steve Brown from the New Orleans Rhythm Kings, and it's very, very significant from that point of view. So as we know that Whiteman had a lot of excellent jazz musicians go through his ranks. He sort of employed them to play in his symphonic band, but they really were doing their own thing outside, but he'd always give them something interesting to do within his larger arrangements. So this is no exception, and it features a very, very young, I think a 23-year-old or 24-year-old Bing Crosby. So if I'm not mistaken, this is the record. And it's a slow start, this one, because it's got a crack in it, but we should be right. go, a rather beaten up old HMV 78 from the late 1920s, or about 1928, early 28, thereabouts. I'll wrestle the record off and can I illuminate the fact? No, it doesn't tell us much. This says vocal refrain. Bing wasn't even getting credited on the label at that point in time. Isn't that interesting? So early days, but what a great jazz vibe with the singing and the string bass, the slap string bass with Steve Brown. Isn't that marvellous?
He could so easily have become a really good jazz vocalist.
Yes, definitely. I sort of celebrate all those early recordings of Bing because he really had he just had a fabulous feeling for the style. I mean, look, he did always perform jazz standards, high society and all of that. I mean,
of course.
It's great, but. Yeah, these are.
He do a lot of crooning in his
he did enormous amount. He was the big.
He wasn't a crooner, you know.
He was always known as a crooner, but I think yes, as you say, he was a very. He had great feeling for the style, and he could have just done that. I should play that.
Naturally to him.
I think it did. I think it did. I think he had a really good ear for sort of rhythmic placement and all of that.
Yeah.
The other side, of course, is Old Man River. I drew a blank on that before. I should play it because this record will go back on the shelf and only get rediscovered in 2030. So that's what happens here. They just go back into the genre domain. I've got everything sort of genre-based here, but without any specificity. So we can't really, find things where we need to, but that's what YouTube's for. So this the record catalogue serves our spontaneous, our serendipitous needs. But yeah, Old Man River, Paul Whiteman and the band with vocal refrain, I should say. I can't remember if the bass is on this one, but it's an upbeat version of Old Man River, if I recall. I'm just dealing with
how it was in the show.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's only in later times that we sort of, slow it down and sort of make it more of a ballad.
Well, people like Paul Robeson got hold of it and saw the depth of it.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And I think it's a very different concept altogether. Anyhow, we'll have a listen to this very early performance, right from the crux. Really, it's the time the show came out. And but bear with me, I'll have to do a fade in because we've got a bite out of this record. Old Man River, Paul Whiteman and his band.
He don't say nothing, but he must know something, 'cause he just keeps rolling. He keeps rolling along, rolling along. He don't plant taters, he don't plant cotton. Them that plants them is soon forgotten, but Old Man River, he keeps rolling along. You and me, we sweat and strain, body all aching and racked with pain. Tote that barge, lift that bale, get a little drunk and you. I get weary and sick of trying, I'm tired of living, tired of dying, but Old Man River keeps rolling along.
Well, folks, that was I've read it rather. That record has seen better times, but there's something extraordinary about that disc. That solo, that saxophone solo, the C melody saxophone solo towards the very end.
Trombone used to play.
Yes, it's Trumbauer, and that.
It's Trombone.
Yes, it is, and with the slap string bass accompaniment. If you listen to how spacious that performance, I'll play that track, that little bit again. It is really, in my mind, the beginning of progressive jazz. It's one of the really important recordings where music was cutting loose from its really four-square sort of dictum and finding just a much more linear approach. And you hear that so much in Bix's playing, but Frankie Trumbauer was equally important in preserving that stylistic element. And you hear it in Lester Young, and you hear it. I mean, so many people were influenced by these Frankie Trumbauer tracks. It is completely remarkable. Have a listen again. Just that last bit. I'll play it just from here. We'll fade in and have a listen to this solo once more. It's just so incredible.
It's not a trad jazz solo at all.
No, not at all. It's completely in another world. That is groundbreaking. It's fascinating. And you hear this often with he's underestimated. I mean, he's sort of under Bix's shadow a little bit because they both were doing similar things. But he had a similar sort of ear for that spacious, that different sense of harmonic rhythm. Very interesting. I'd forgotten that record had that important attribute. So that's great. It's a pity it's in such bad condition. I would love to have a good copy of this, but he's got a bite out of it and it's been eaten by termites and everything else. But never the mind. Okay, well, I've got a pile of jazz records here from the sort of pre-war era, and amongst them is a recording of Benny Goodman's trio and Sweet Lorraine, Slow Foxtrot. Let's have a listen to this. This should be good. From about 1936, thereabouts. I'm vk3sl.
VK3JR.
Very smooth. That was the Goodman Trio there. And a very, just a relaxed version of Sweet Lorraine.
Good music to dance to, though.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's just got a nice
ballroom dancing feel to it.
Yes, I acknowledge that. Now, I was sort of quite inspired hearing that early Trambauer track, and I thought, wow, he was a real force of nature, that guy. He had an amazing feel for the potential of that sort of almost impressionistic ideal that they were trying to peddle. I don't like using the word intellectual jazz because I think it sort of demeans it in a way. It's just spacious jazz, and probably one of the recordings that sort of recorded about the same time that really I think is probably one of the most important in its generation is the recording Trambauer made with Bix at the piano and Eddie Lang at the guitar, just the three of them. And they made a track called For No Reason at All in C. Now, this would have sold very poorly back in the day. No one would have had any idea what these musicians were doing. But as I've said so many times, Paul Whiteman's main claim to fame was to support these types of ventures. He funded them, he underscored them, and he just made it happen. And this is hugely significant. So he had these experimental records like this, which is just so far ahead of its time. It's decades ahead of its time, really, this record. It's hard to believe this was recorded in May 1927. At that time, everything had its four-square jazz concentrated sort of rhythmic impetus, and here we have something that's so much more expansive and looking ahead. So the only problem with this record is that they didn't tune the piano, and the piano is just terribly out of tune. But we do have Bix at the keys and Eddie Lang on the guitar and Frankie Trambauer playing his C melody sax and just with superb sense of line and flow, and what a solo. It's just so magnificent. And I think Bix picks up the corner at the very, very end and just does the final break.
Right.
So anyhow, the name of the song, For No Reason at All in C. think Miles Davis was 3 years of age when that record was made. It's incredible, isn't it? It's looking ahead decades. Quite amazing. I like to.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it's just remarkable that, I mean, it's just so fortuitous that these artists were able to sort of do what felt right and were able, and it's like, yeah, this is Whiteman's genius. That's what he did. He saw the light in that sense.
Could have been 40s or 50s, I reckon.
Yeah, easily. That's true. And there's a number of these tracks, and some of them were made for smaller labels. They were able to go into and record acoustically on some of the or early. Yeah, I think a lot of these are acoustic for second tier labels and do sort of jam sessions. There's one called Three Blind Mice. And they called themselves the Chicago Loopers.
Okay.
It features Bix, Frank Trumba, Don Murray, Frank Signorelli, and Eddie Lang and Vic Burton. I'll find it. Here it is. Yep, it's coming up straight away. It's a groundbreaking recording, similar vibe. And
You got these discs, actually.
oh God, no! The records are rare as hen's teeth.
I was gonna say,
There's only a few copies.
It'd be worth a fortune.
Yeah, I could get more real estate if I had those.
That's right.
They're worth serious money if you stumble on them. But they're only released locally, and they had very small circulation. But they're hugely significant. And looking at the origins of the form,
I was misled because you said you had a lot of jazz records there. So.
yeah, I got a lot of reissues. I mean, they're reissuing the stuff.
course,
They
of
realised the value of it by the 1940s, and a lot of the stuff came out. And I've got a lot of Bix on, and a lot of its adventurous stuff too on 78, but these were records made in the 40s. The records made, the first generation of these discs are worth serious money, like tens of thousands.
They'd be very much collectors.
Yes, they are. They're for people who have very deep pockets, and to get them in mint condition, they're almost priceless. But here we have one such record on the Perfect label. Wasn't even a mainstream label, but they went into the studio. They probably got $10 for doing this or something. And they made a record called Three Blind Mice. Just check out the instrumental solos. They're truly amazing. Okay, fabulous stuff. Hey, so there we go. Progressive jazz from the 1920s there. And I'm particularly interested in what Frankie Trumbull was doing in that period. He was certainly a trailblazer. With his C melody sax. I mean, the big solo there was fabulous too. God, it was so. Talk about Miles Davis must have been hearing this in the womb. It's really sort of anticipates that whole thing.
Well, Dizzy Gillespie goes sort of back nearly that far.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, not only as far as his playing goes, but I think in listening to stuff.
Oh yes, I think so. Well, Dizzy was sort of. I think he was born in when was Dizzy born? Should we look him up?
Yeah, way ago.
Yeah, it was a while back. I think he was. Let's get the dates. Let's look him up. Oh, I don't want to news. Dizzy Gillespie. I wouldn't mind hearing his first. Here he goes. 1917 he was born. Yeah, okay. Until 1993, okay. And John Burke's Dizzy Gillespie, American jazz trumpeter and bandleader, composer, educator and singer. I'm glad they recognise his educational pursuits.
Yeah.
Trumpet virtuoso and improviser. Well, you know what? You've spawned me to... you've inspired me
down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, here we go. I've got the 1947 box here. And there are lots of Dizzy records in here. We haven't played any for a while. So I'm going to just pull some randoms. And the first one is Night in Tunisia.
As you would think it might be.
That's the first record out of the batch.
That was his first big jazz hit, if you like to call it that, I think.
Yeah, so we'll dedicate this one to Leighton if he's listening.
Yeah, that's right. Good day, Leighton, if you have to be listening.
Yes.
I'm sure he would have chimed in if he'd been listening.
Yeah, no, I understand totally. I mentioned to him that we're always here, and he's always welcome. Okay, so this features... I'm just going to switch the other turntable in before I forget. Here we go. Yes, we have Dizzy Gillespie trumpet, Don Byers tenor saxes. Here, this is what Eric Charles does. He reads them all out. And he says it with such authority. He said Milt Jackson, vibraphone, Ale Haig, piano, Bill DiRaggio, guitar, Ray Brown on the bass, and J.C. Hurd on the drums. So,
few stars, up-and-coming stars there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, this was his sort of magnum opus, really. This sort of put him on the map.
Yeah.
But, let's tune in. That's the song I think that put Dizzy on the map back in 1946, 47, thereabouts.
Yeah.
Fabulous. What's the meter of that? I should look it up. It's something like 11.8 or something.
It's unusual, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's got that wonderful sense of it sort of arresting. Throws you off your kilt.
It does, actually.
Yeah.
You're used to it, and then you feel very satisfied with yourself.
Yeah.
So you've conquered the little mountain.
Yeah, that's right. Here we go. Side B. I'm going to play this because it's. I don't think I've ever played this. It's called 52nd Street Theme. It's a Thelonious Monk tune, and we have more of Dizzy Gillespie's Septet this time. Was the other one Septet too? Yes, it is. Yeah, from it's actually Swing Music Series 1948. So yeah, we're a little bit out, but. It's in the ballpark. And any excuse to jump into this box of records. It sits here permanently waiting for someone to mention the Dizzy's name or any of the other artists playing in that early bebop period. But here we have Milt Jackson and A.L. Haig. I think we went through it before. It's 52nd Street Theme. And we'll give it a Guernsey. That sounds so good in here. These records sound really fine, Frank. They really do. They're amazing. Yeah, there we go. It's it's remarkable, really. The way that mosaic style of jazz from that period. Whoops. And the just the rhythmic acuity is just something to behold. Amazing. That was 52nd Street Theme, a Thelonious Monk song played by Dizzy Gillespie's Septet back in probably 1947. I think that was recorded. But they're great to hear, these records. Let's hear Old Man Rebop is another. These are marvellous. From the same set, these records are in perfect condition. I don't think they'd ever been played or rarely played, certainly not played with steel needles.
Good.
They sound just pristine in here, they really do. So thank goodness for Australian laminated pressings. They really are. It's a pity that other countries didn't sort of press their records with the same level of exactitude, really.
Right.
Yeah, they used a rougher surface, and you get a lot of surface noise. So Australian recordings are prized by collectors because they are so silent, and these are no exception. They sound amazing. So anyhow,
My Les Paul records were very good.
Yeah, yes, they were. Those Capital Les Pauls are brilliant. They're amazing.
Yeah,
they
they're
sound
better than other stuff
Yes.
that I had.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was the fact that these so many records were pressed in Australia using this laminated surfaces. So they'd use a rougher bisque for the middle of the record, and then they have a paper laminate, and then they have this very fine shellac surface, which was very low noise.
Right.
And I don't know if many countries took that level of care with their processing. All right, well, we'll hear this. It's Old Man Rebop, and again, the Dizzy Gillespie Septet. So we'll stop it on. There's a smell about these records, Frank. This box of records, I think it must be something to do with the decay of the covers. But I love opening it because it's got that musty old world smell. And,
Just get you into the right frame of mind.
It really does. Yeah, I almost feel like lighting up a cigarette, to be honest.
I've done that with books.
Yeah, it happens, doesn't it? go. Fabulous stuff.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Had a good talk to Leighton, as I mentioned, and yeah, it was interesting. We were talking about the racial laws in California and how I didn't realise that people couldn't marry interrace until the 1950s in California.
Yeah, I didn't know about California. That was a surprise to me too when I heard that.
Yeah, it was staggering.
I expected better of the West Coast, you know.
Well, that's right. I thought they're sort of progressive in that way. I mean, it's so alarming.
The Deep South, I would have expected it, but
in California, of all places, yeah, he illuminated that one.
it goes to show how deep-seated it really was.
Yeah, absolutely, and just makes you realise the complexities of artists in working together and finding mutual inspiration, and all these jazz musicians. It's so patently obvious that there's so much cross-pollination, but it really wasn't until the sort of post-war period that they were able to record together.
That's right.
And acknowledge the fact.
Such a shame.
Yeah,
I mean, artistically, it's a shame because
it is,
of the legacy that we don't have that we should have.
Yes, indeed, that's right. I mean, I think it was all happening, but just wasn't recorded.
That's exactly right. It was funny to think of all this music being made sort of illicitly.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine that level of control, social sort of manipulation, but
It's a very deep-seated hate.
Yes, it is. It comes from a very dark place. Yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah, so to speak. I know that's.
Yeah, indeed, Steve, indeed.
Yeah, this one, another from the pile, featuring Dizzy Gillespie, and this time his all-star quintet, and features him on trumpet, Charlie Parker on alto sax, Al Haig, Curly Russell, and Mr. Catlett on drums. So this is from the 1947 Super Rhythm Style series on Parlophone. The others were on HMV, so but I think all these by that stage the major labels had all aggregated and were. I don't think there was much differentiation back then.
Yeah.
But anyhow, more Dizzy. Yeah, that was Dizzy and Co. It's staggering, really, the level of just the attention to detail. I mean, they must have rehearsed this stuff ad nauseum.
But great musicians in their way.
Yeah, totally. But the inflections are just so consistent between all the parts.
Yeah.
It's just so together, and
Oh,
so there's so much concentration of energy, just through matched intention. I mean, rhythmically, it's just superb, amazing.
I just wish I kind of got it musically, you know.
Yeah, musically it's more complex, and I get that too. I understand what you're saying, but my goodness me. Well, look, I'll ride. I've got to wind up actually. We've got.
I better go and eat as well.
Yes, Kate's dad is here, and we're going to.
All right.
We're having a bit of a catch up with him.
Excellent.
Yeah, well, he's now in Melbourne. He's moved from South Australia, and he's living in a retirement village quite close. And we catch up with him on Sunday nights.
That is really good.
Which is really special. It's fantastic because
that'd be great for Kate.
It's really important.
It sure is.
I can't underestimate that.
I've been there and done that.
Yeah.
With my dad.
Yeah, it's it. So we're sort of in this beautiful space at the moment where we're sort of seeing him a lot more, and more now than ever. Because for lots of reasons. So
for the kids to be able to see him as well.
Right, exactly. So he's sort of really integrated within our family.
That is very important, Steve.
Yeah, totally. So we'll go in and check in with all of that. And what I'll do though is ride out with the rest of this program from the Swing Show from the 14th of the 9th, 1974. Featuring Eric Child, and it's off the ABC. It's a fantastic transfer, and there's probably about 50 of these tapes. So
Dave's going to dub them, is he?
He's going to. I gave him most of them, and I've got a handful here, and I'll just switch them over with him when I catch up with him next.
Yeah, sure.
And there's this material, and there's all sorts of other stuff from the 50s and 60s. It's a remarkable collection. That's very interesting.
I'll probably hear them on shortwave, radio shortwave.
Exactly. If anyone's listening to Shortwave Australia in the next little while, you'll probably hear some recordings of Eric Child's Swing Show, which I'm really happy that it's all being disseminated. So, let's give it a burl. We'll hear another. This is the real tape going to air, incidentally. I've got it on the Q-Master 77. What I'll do is I'll put it into edit mode and just go back a little bit so we can hear his introduction. This is the marvellous thing. These machines are just so versatile.
While you're doing that, radio Shortwave Australia is on 4.835 and 2.31 megahertz.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's more powerful than ever, folks, because at every turn, Dave is refining the concept and building upon strength to strength. And it's working superbly. So without any further ado, we'll say our cheerios. Thank you, listeners, and thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, listener.
Yay. So next week...
Have a good week, listener.
Yes, this is the last week for me before I have a 2-week break and I can catch up on things. I've got so many emails to read and articles to read and just sort of, I need and things to clean up here. It's another thing I've got to do. And I'll probably fit a few bushwalks in between. So that's the way of things for holiday space.
I've got one of my music nights on Friday night. So
next Friday?
I won't be on late.
Okay.
Or early either, actually.
Oh, really?
I'm glad I thought to mention this.
Okay, so this next coming Friday you won't be around?
No, but I'll talk to you through the week about Saturday.
Yes, Saturday night's a special one, and that's what
Saturday
time
afternoon.
Saturday afternoon. Okay, great.
It's 2 till whatever, probably about 4:30.
Oh, really? Okay, I'll mention it.
Does that?
No, it should be okay. I'll just check in and we'll have a chat off here. But it should be fine. Should be absolutely fine. Yeah.
All right.
So we'll just we'll make that all come together. Okay. Thank you so
stuff.
much. All right then, Frank. You have a great week. Thanks,
you too,
listeners.
Steve and family.
Yep. And we'll look forward to sharing the love again next week and onwards from here. I'm vk3sl.
I'm vk3jr signing clear.
Of Brubeck. It'll be out on their new LP, which is not yet released in the States. Now, for a rather unusual sound from Count Basie. The Count plays a prepared or tack piano, and it's called Kansas City Wrinkles. That was the Count Basie Band fading out on Kansas City Wrinkles. Wrinkles, it seems, means chitlins. That was the Kansas City brand. Anyhow, the soloists were Buddy Catlett on bass, the clarinet player was Marshall Royal, Snooky Young was on trumpet, and the trombonist was Henry Coker, and the writer was Quincy Jones, originally from an LP called Little Old Groove Maker, but reissued now by World Record Club in a new series. Tracking down the personnels on an album simply called the Jones Boys, Quincy, Thad, Jimmy, Joe, Eddie and Elvin, could have been a labour of jazz involving a good deal of time. Well, happily, I found most of what I wanted under Thad's name. But as to Quincy, well, I assume he was the composer or arranger. So that brings us to Thad Jones on trumpet, Frank Foster on tenor, Jimmy Jones on piano, Doug Watkins on bass, and Joe Jones on drums, and a tune which I always associate with the forward-looking 50s. It's called Whisper Not. Well, actually, the recording date was 1956. Unqualified and unsupported statistics can get you into quite a lot of bother. That's why I almost hesitated to say that of all the instruments he plays, Don Burrows is heard least of all on baritone saxophone. I still believe this until someone proves me wrong. Well, the quartet's new two-up on Cherry Pie, recorded at the Opera House, has this Ellington piece, Things Ain't What They Used to Be, with Don on the large sax.
Thank you. George Cullen, Ed Gaston, and Laurie Thompson. Thanks very much.
Well, that was the Don Burrows Quartet at the Opera House, and a fine reception for things ain't what they used to be with Don playing baritone saxophone. Don Burrows, George Goller, Ed Gaston and Laurie Thompson. Now, regrettably, the quartet has split up. By the way, farewell today, too, to the American bass player Jack Lesberg, who has decided to return to the States and is going to live not in New York, but on the West Coast. So I'd see you go, Jack. Been nice to know you. Well, that's all from the world of jazz, and this is Eric Child wishing you well.
You're listening to ABC Radio, where Eastern Time is 11 o'clock. The news in brief, read by Bruce Menzies. British troops yesterday shot and captured one of 19 IRA men who escaped from a prison in the Irish Republic last month. The security forces said Martin McAllister was found wounded in a house at Crossmaglen, southwest of Belfast, after a gun battle with a patrol of Royal Marine commandos. Police in the Irish Republic yesterday raided the office of the provisional Sinn Féin weekly newspaper in Dublin. They arrested the office manager, Mr. Sean Keenan, and the editor, Mr. Eamon McThomas. A car carrying the Governor of Western Australia, Sir Huey Edwards, was stopped for speeding on the Albany Highway yesterday, south of Perth. The Senior Inspector of the Hotham Williams Regional Traffic Council, Mr. Berry, said Sir Huey's car had been detected exceeding the speed limit during a radar check. Mr. Berry said the Governor's driver had been cautioned. A driver travelling at that speed would not be charged. A new law has been invoked in South Africa to cut off foreign funds to the National Union of Students. The move comes a month after a parliamentary commission alleged the union was a front organisation supplied with money by foreign bodies trying to overthrow the South African government. American Coast Guard firefighters have reported that they're winning the battle to control a fire aboard a luxury cruise ship, the Ambassador, which has been burning for 2 days. There are no passengers or crew on the board, and more than 30 firefighters are at work on the ship. Reports from a meeting of the world's major oil-exporting countries in Vienna say that the ministers have apparently agreed to keep the price of oil as it is until the end of the year. But other charges will be increased. The Iranian delegate, Dr. Amouzegar, spoke of an increase in taxes and royalties paid by the oil companies to the producer countries. And that was the news in brief. There'll be more news in 1 hour.
Good morning, everyone. This is Kevin Arnett with you.
Thank you for listening. This is vk3sl, and stay tuned next Friday for more missions.